So welcome again as we take a few minutes to let everyone in and a minute or two just to regroup, and then we'll start.
Johan? Yeah. Okay. No noise, okay?
All right. Well,
Gee,
thank you
does
for
that
joining
actually
us
work when you say
again.
no noise? Because I thought it just they got more noise. Like, why?
Thank you again all for joining us. We'll get started in just one more minute.
I love Julie's outfit. That's what I want to be doing. Laying by the pool, relaxing. Diva, pool diva.
This is not sustainable, just so you know.
Okay. Thank you all. I think we'll go ahead and get started. Appreciate that you are again here with us on a Saturday, taking your time to look at and participating in our advancement exam prep session. This is session number 5, so you've made it. Congratulations. And also, we will have some time at the end of the session today to share sort of next steps and have a lot of opportunity to answer questions for you as well. So again, welcome, and thank you for being here. And we'll have some guests that we'll talk about. So I'll pass it off to Nora as we move to our next slide.
Hi, everyone.
I've
Yes.
introduced myself. Go ahead, Nora.
Okay, so Nora Powers, co-chair for Cal, and so proud that we made it through another session. So thank you for bearing with us. Rick, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'll unmute. Hi, Rick Narad, committee member.
Michael.
Hear you.
Hello, everyone. Michael Dakoko, one of the committee member.
Hi, Sachin Gangapantula, committee member. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Pass it to our Seoul colleagues.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicholas Hance, joined by my very effective, dedicated partner, Ms. Tweet Doe, and we have our very special guest today, week 5, Miss Angela Rivera. Last minute addition to this slide, though she remains an advisor to Savintar, she is currently market leader and cybersecurity advisor for the Chartis Group.
Thank
For
you.
having me.
So we'll go to our next slide and go through our opening discussions.
Okay, so I'm adding some updates. First of all, again, I apologize for my errors last week, and I did send the corrected PowerPoint presentation out with the follow-up email. Let me know if you didn't get that. So for the professional ethics follow-up, there was some questions about the patient's Bill of Rights. So we have a little bit of a write-up here, and then with the links that Rick has provided us, so you can go out and research those options yourself. But again, if you have any further questions, just let us know. We'll research them also. On the governance follow-up around the board size, there is in chapter 4 of the well-managed healthcare organization. I should have written the name of the author. I'm sorry I didn't do that, but it's part of the study set. And they do talk about in this particular version I have, it's an older version, they didn't actually get into specific numbers, but basically that if you get too large a board, it just turns into a big honorific positions as opposed to actual decision making. So so you may want to follow up on that chapter in that book. It's an excellent chapter. Well, they all are. And then shortly after this, we're going to bombard you with a bunch of emails, the follow-up email with this information, as well as a Survey Monkey. And please be as honest and forthright as possible. We do take your comments and suggestions into account as we continue to improve these sessions. Next slide. Here we go. Nick, would you like to introduce Angela again?
Sure. So we'll just do a proper introduction for our guest. Like I said, she's board of advisors for Cyvatar and currently with the Chartist Group. She is a fellow of the Health Information Management Systems Society, also known as HIMSS, former president of the SoCal chapter. And lastly, she was named Women in Healthcare IT to Know by Becker's Hospital Review, back-to-back 2018-2019. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Miss Angela.
Thank you, appreciate it. I think we're gonna go to the next slide. All right, so it's I have not taken the exam, but I have helped prepare for it in the past. And it's my understanding that really there's going to be 8 key areas that will need to be focused on in the exam. The first is just a general knowledge of the role and function of information technology, or IT, in business operations. And really the most important thing to know and understand there is IT is an enabler of achieving business objectives. So all of the folks that are in the clinical operations, financial side, any component of healthcare, really you are the customer of IT. They're there to serve you and help you. The second key knowledge area is really on technology trends, clinical applications, other types of technology in healthcare and supporting healthcare. This is difficult actually because healthcare technology is rapidly expanding and constantly changing. So you shouldn't get any questions related to kind of the latest and greatest because it is moving at a rapid pace, but just understanding some of the general technologies that support a healthcare organization will be key. The third is knowledge of technology policies and regulations. You'll likely hear about Hipaa, high tech, and really the importance there is protecting patient information and how critical it is to an organization. And then the fourth thing is knowledge of healthcare informatics and how it's needed for operational decisions. And, this is really important, particularly with COVID. Healthcare informatics really supports a lot related to population health. It helps predict outbreaks by geography. And, most recently, you hear a lot about health disparity, equities of care. Health informatics can really support those types of initiatives. Next slide. You'll also need to understand the potential impacts and consequences of healthcare IT decision-making on staff, processes, in finance, operations, quality of care. And really, it's important to know in your role in healthcare that IT is going to rely on you a lot to help answer questions about functionality you need, maybe who needs access to the systems. That's really critical when we talk about cybersecurity risks. Certain individuals shouldn't have access to all the systems, and they call that role-based access. But really, how can IT, again, be an enabler to support operations? They may ask, when is the best time to do maintenance? What's the best time to turn off the system so we can maintain them, things like that. Then you're going to have knowledge of information systems continuity. You might have disaster planning, recovery, backup. Many of you may be part of an incident response. So for example, you hear a lot about ransomware. So in your roles, if maybe the organization is hit by ransomware, a lot of operational leaders end up being involved in helping the organization respond to an incident. Then you have knowledge of factors that influence the selection or acquisition of new technology. Again, as business, IT calls the operational folks in an organization the business owners, right? IT doesn't own the systems. It's those in clinical leadership or those, on the finance side or even the HR side. It's going to be really important that the business owners are involved with selecting the right technology and really being part of those decisions, because at the end of the day, IT, again, is supporting your operations. And then last is knowledge of healthcare analytics. More and more data with the increased use of technology, more and more data is made available. And it's really important as a business user or a business owner of a specific area that you have a good understanding of how you need the data and what you need IT to be focused on. So healthcare analytics is key right now in supporting organizations' business objectives. So those are kind of the key 8 areas. And we will get into a quick few quiz questions that may be anticipated on the test. And then I think if we have time at the end, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Is that okay, Nora? Okay, sounds good. So we'll go ahead and start the first question. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to ask the question. I think we ask people to submit their answer in the chat, if I'm not mistaken. And then we'll see how folks respond. And then Rick and I will provide some guidance on how you might want to look at answering those questions in the future if for some reason you didn't all get it right. Okay. So I'm going to actually see if I can pull up my chat here so I can see how you all are answering. So the first question is, why is it important for the IT strategy to align with the organization's goals and objectives? And I'm going to let you all see if everybody got it right. It looks like this one everybody has mastered, so that's terrific. Again, as I mentioned, really IT is to support the operations. So anything that is supportive of management providers and their customers, that's where the IT strategy is really going to support. So there we go. Oh, I forgot, we do have the little arrow, so I'll remember that the next time. All right, let's go to the next question. What competencies do not matter in selecting a CIO? Well, let's see how you all answer that.
Remember your true false training, folks, with Rick's famous brain walk.
All right, so let's go ahead and show the answer. So it looks like everybody got that one right too. And while I'm sure at some point it might be a little beneficial, it's clearly not core to selecting the competency of your CIO. So management experience, very important to have healthcare organization and delivery experience, and finance and budgeting skills, because there's a lot to do with preparing an IT budget, making sure ROI, our return on investments, are incorporated in business plans and things like that. So, all right, next question. one of the major elements of a strategic IT plan is, see how you all do here. Okay, we can go ahead and show the answer. Okay, looks like this is a really talented group because so far everybody's getting it right. But again, and I'm just going to say, if you ever get questions about IT enabling strategic objectives, that's usually the right answer. So, and this was very specific, that it aligns with strategic objectives with an organization. So that was a good keyword. The others are supportive, but not the most.
Angela, could you go back on that one for a second?
Yeah.
One way of looking at this is that the question is asking about strategic, and then you start jumping into words like detailed. So that should be an alert right there that something that's detailed is really not likely to be very strategic. So you can use that to eliminate some of them.
Great point. Thanks for adding that. Okay. Fourth question, the element most critical to the successful design and implementation of an executive decision support system in a healthcare organization is, I'll let you read it and answer the question.
This is a little wordy, you know, when you get too many words in a question, remember to read it backwards too. You'll pick up on some keywords.
Okay, let's go ahead and show the answer. Okay, so this one was a little more difficult to answer correctly, and I think Nora is right. It is wordy, so it is a little more difficult to narrow things down. But when you look at an executive decision support system, really having the involvement of any major initiative of, having the involvement of top management is critical to success with any major enterprise initiative. So that would be the most important. If you don't have involvement of top management in the executive decision support system, all of the other things are supplementary. Okay.
So I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. I was at a board retreat once. I was a director of a managed care at a hospital system back east. And we were at a board retreat and the CEO was going on and on about our new decision support system. But he wasn't aware of he thought it included something very important, but he wasn't involved in the decision and it didn't include that. And that was quite the most uncomfortable moment when it was like, sir, no, it doesn't. So somebody needed to had explaining to do about why the decision was made without including him and his team in the decision. So there it is.
And really, I mean, for IT, when they're going to design and implement any decision, the users of that future system, engagement of the users is so important. And so remember, this was an executive decision support system. So, okay. Maintaining data confidentiality is going to be critically important. But those are things that you can ensure in your, in the feasibility study and things like that. You ensure that that's integrated in there. Okay. Okay, next slide. The goal of Hipaa in terms of security and privacy was to, and I'll give you a minute to read and respond.
Remember to read all these answers backwards also, because there's a lot of words.
Okay, let's go ahead and show the answer. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of hints on this one. Hipaa replies to all, not just the government organization, so all health systems. So that's an easy elimination. Between A and B and C. So I'm just going to lay it out there that the HITECH Act is related. Sorry, I have a new puppy. The HITECH Act is related to ARA, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. So if you see anything related to ARA, that's HITECH. And then providing financial incentives is also HITECH. So really, Hipaa is really related to exchanging data and keeping the privacy and security of that data. So electronic data interchange, or EDI, is related to Hipaa. Anything high-tech is related to ARA and financial incentives. Okay.
And may I add on that, Angela, also the ARA, so also related to the meaningful use, correct?
Yes, thank you. Mhm. Okay, next slide. Proprietary medical information is protected within an organization on what type of server? And I'll let you read and respond. Okay, let's go ahead and show the answer. Looks like everybody got that right. So clearly, if you want your proprietary medical information protected, you don't put it out on the internet. There is no such thing as a secure net. There's a company called SecureNet, but that's not, it's not something that you're going to run across. And then the extranet means outsiders can get in. So definitely intranet is the right answer. Okay, next question. Knowledge management is defined as, and we'll give you a little more time because this is a little wordy. Okay, I think we can show the answer here. So I'm going to help those that answered differently, and I can see why they did. So yes, knowledge management systems really are to help build and apply all your intellectual assets to maximize organizational effectiveness. You want to use it for multiple engagements. You want to be able to say, hey, let's not reinvent the wheel, right? Every time we want to do something new, let's leverage some of the intellectual property and things that we already have to help achieve our goals. The one thing on D, for those of you who answered D, was related to a distinct initiative. So knowledge management really focuses on more globally, how can we get better and maximize our use of what we have? Okay.
And may I say something on this question, please? The selections D, C, and D refers to different terms. The transfer of structured information between two computer systems is called the electronic data interchange. The letter C is a movement to explicitly use the current best available scientific evidence for managerial decision making is evidence-based management. And the D, the planning, organizing, directing, and controlling of resources to accomplish goals and objectives related to a distinctive initiative is defined as project management.
Thank you. And yes, you might get questions on what all of those three terms are. So thank you for adding that. Okay, which of the following is a reason that systems support of outcomes, data collection, and analysis can be very complex? We'll let you read and respond. Okay, I think we can show the answer. Can we show the answer, please?
1 second. Looks like there's something frozen on my system. 1 second.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah, so it looks like everybody did get this one right. Yes, all of you know your hospital operations. All the data resides in multiple systems. Sometimes it's kept manually. This is really why data analytics and a nice data analytics program is so critical to a healthcare organization, is because of this big issue right here. And because you all answered it so well, I don't think we need to go through the other questions at this part, the other answers, because we are going to do a Quizlet. We'll dive into more. I want to leave time for that.
I'd like to use this as an example of answer D is just throwing a bunch of gobbledygook out there. So it sounds good, but if you apply your knowledge of systems, healthcare systems, and read the questions carefully, it'll be clearer. But yeah, don't go down the rabbit hole of a bunch of gobbledygook out there. I mean, it sounds feasible, right?
Okay, move on. One of the major elements of an information system strategic plan includes okay, we can show the answer here. And I think Rick's last suggestion really helped this one, because yes, it's strategic plan. So you're not going to be into specifications, which that eliminates 2 questions. an RFP, you do your RFP after you have your plan set, right? So definitely the software development plan was the right answer. So good job there. All right, I think we have a few more. So selection of an information system in a healthcare organization should begin with what? Okay, let's go ahead and show the answer on this one. So this one reminds me a lot of some of the security questions I get for some of the security certifications. And I would just, my recommendation is really read the question carefully. So selection of an information system in healthcare should begin with, right? So if you really look at the order of these answers, organizations need to have their information systems plan done first before any sort of implementation or selection of systems should happen, right? So the answer, if you were to do any of these before you have your actual information systems plan, which is strategic and aligns with organizations, you should not be going to a system selection. Unfortunately, a lot of organizations do this in different orders, and that's why their systems end up not meeting the needs of the business objectives. So bad practice to do it any other way. So let's make sure you know that your IS systems plan meets strategic objectives of the organization first.
A good way to approach this one is the keyword. One of the keywords is begin. And the broadest answer is usually the most correct, which fits in with the fact that this is what you have to do first. Anyway, so again, if you remember nothing else from our sessions, focus on keywords and the broadest answer is usually correct, and then apply the true false, the brain walk. And to Angela's point, you know, start at the beginning and you've got to develop that plan.
And if you really don't know the answer, IT supports an organization's strategic objectives. So at the end of the day, like that's your best guess. Okay. All right. So let's go on to the next. We have two more, I think. A comprehensive information security policy should include all of the following elements except. Okay, let's go ahead and show the answer. So this one may have stumped a bunch of folks. So let's talk through this one. So a policy is kind of a high-level statement that the organization creates that says, at a high level, here's what we're going to do to be secure. Okay, so yes, we're going to have management policies that word was actually in that answer. So you know that one's okay. We are going to have a data backup and recovery policy. So if the systems go down at a high level, what is our policy? What do we do, right? Or what are we supposed to do and make sure we do? Physical security, if any of you work in a hospital or a medical facility, you should have been trained on, hopefully your organization has done this, trained on, is our policy not to let people in who haven't signed on with security, or it is our policy that everybody has to be badged, right? So physical security, yes, information technology or the security team does have policies on physical security, and you're probably trained on that with your annual security training awareness classes, okay? There's something called piggybacking, which means you're letting people in behind you, or they're following you when you got into a door and they come in and they don't have to submit a swipe their badge. In security hacker world, that's called piggybacking. So physical security absolutely needs to have policies. Technical controls. So controls are the details after a policy. Okay. So a technical control is like a tool, right? We're going to implement all of these tools to help all of the employees that may not understand how to do things right. We're going to invest in extra tools to make sure they can't do things. Okay. Or like if we're going to do a technical control that helps people not fall for phishing. Okay. We're going to make sure that we stop that from, or reduce that from happening. So controls are more detailed after policies. Okay. All right. And then we have one more question. In the IT system development lifecycle, which is the most important step? Okay, let's go ahead and show the answer. All right, so let's spend a little bit of time on this one as well. And I think something that Nora said earlier will really help here. Whenever you're going to do anything in IT, you want to make sure that first step usually is the most important. So we talked about that with planning, with strategic planning, talked about it with, making sure that before, when you procure a technology, you align it to the strategic plan, make sure that's done first. It's the same concept here. Before you do anything, you need to analyze why you need the system, what the goals of the system will do for the organization. Because if you don't know those things, you can't design a system effectively, right? So it's really important to do that upfront analysis. Sometimes we call that feasibility. And it's getting all of the end users, the business leaders together to say, why do you need the system? What do you need out of it? And we'll make sure that we design it correctly. We get the right vendors to acquire any technology correctly, and then we implement it correctly. But we need to know what you want first. Okay. And what business challenges it is going to impact for you. Okay. Okay, I think that's it on my end. And I think we're going to move to another section, and I'll be back for the Quizlet.
Thank you, Angela. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I'm Sherry, and I'm going to take us through our last knowledge area. Congratulations, you made it. You've made it to quality and performance management. And talk about a section that has a lot of acronyms. And as you study and go through your materials and you write out either the naming culture, whatever you use for it, just know that this is a good opportunity to do your grids as well with definitions. And part of this section on quality, a lot of it, as you always hear, quality has to do with standardization. So when you think about it, just think about how to standardize. And of course, it's national standards. It's not going to be a state or a local standard for sake of this test because it's a national exam. So think about benchmarking in a global perspective on how to compare, how to look at best practices, evidence-based practices, and how to bring that into your quality and your clinical practice. Medical staff peer review. When you think of peer review, that's within the same profession. And a lot of the medical staff peer review is guided by the bylaws of the medical staff organization. Risk, you'll be asked questions about either risk management principles or programs and what some of those programs are. And this is a good list of that. So some of the things that will come under this might be your reducing injury and workman's comp and different things like that in terms of risk programs. And process improvement. There'll be questions on what is lean, what is Six Sigma, and I remember lean just very easily as it decreased waste, and Six Sigma looks on at process variation. So one of the things to do is, again, to maybe do a chart with your definitions or just practice each of these so that you have an easily recognizable statement with them. Some of the tools and techniques that you'll be learning about and you'll need to know include charts. There'll be always a question about the parietal chart, the most frequent problem, and a question on flow or run chart, fishbone, cause effect. So as you look at some of the tools to integrate into your quality programs, think about those as well. When we think of knowledge of utilization review and case management systems, be thinking about medical necessity. And case managers really are there to coordinate the care within the organization and beyond. So post-acute or whatever type of care delivery model you're in, but also think about medical necessity in those terms. Next slide. When we think of standardization, clinical pathways is one of the best examples because it guides everyone in that clinical delivery model to what is been proven by evidence-based practice medicine, what has been shown in research, and what has been accumulated from the various research models to provide the best outcomes. So think about that. Population health is very important, and we talk about that in terms of how to look at your programs as it relates to a larger group of individuals, and then pay for performance. Lots on that in terms of, especially as CMS and the government as the provider looking at value-based care. Quality and performance tools. HCAHPS is a great example. It describes to us what the payers are looking at in terms of patient satisfaction and the patient experience. Some of the others that you want to look at is that since many organizations do have to post their scores on web-based systems, the Leapfrog group is a great organization to look at in terms of organizing quality and within organizations. And of course, the safety goals through the Joint Commission is another. And for reducing tools and improving outcomes, reducing avoidable errors and disclosure of errors is very important. And there'll be questions around that to sort of focus yourself on what can you do to look at your errors and how do you think differently? How do you think more from a disclosure perspective more than what in past years in healthcare has been more about hiding? And a lot of that's come out of some of the reports that have been distributed and discussed quite a bit, reducing errors. Recognition as quality as truly a business strategy. It truly is something that looks at an organization, promotes from within how you focus on quality and how it really will impact both finance, staffing, decisions, becoming a magnet hospital, for example. Focusing on quality for nursing shows that an organization really commits to that. And Malcolm Baldwin Award, some of the awards that are awarded for quality and for effectiveness and efficiencies are very important in terms of your business strategic plan. So we'll go through some questions next, if we could have the next slide, and be thinking about standardization and how to practice quality. And we'll start out with having Michael do our odd questions.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Question number 1 is, which characteristic of a high-risk process would tend to increase the risk of a process failure? Simplicity, A. B, consistency. C, variability. D, automation. Okay, I can see a lot of, C as the answer there. Let's move on to the next slide for the answer. Yes, it's correct. It's letter C. So the question, it's very evident, that simplicity, consistency, and automation, promotes low risk process. So a lot of variation in your process, it's really high risk. So
Nick, I think we'll have you read the even, sorry.
Got it. Question 2. A healthcare institution would use nationally accepted clinical benchmarks to A, B, C, or D? Looking like it's a unanimous C, evaluate the outcomes of a clinical process.
Next slide. Are we ready?
Right.
Good answer. Yeah, that truly connects to, if you're going to look at clinical benchmarks, compare yourself against other organizations, either like organizations. It's in an effort to really look at what their outcomes were. So good answers all.
next slide. So this is a lot of words to read. So I would take it, slowly if I'm taking the exam. So in designing a risk management program for your organization, what approach would have the most impact on reducing risk? A, developing a reporting system for medical errors and injuries to staff and visitors. B, require assessment of high-risk areas or processes within each service department or unit. And C, use task forces to address key Joint Commission standards that apply to risk management. Or D, educate staff on potential risks and patient safety practices. So I can see some different answers there. So next slide for the answer, it's B. Yeah. So assessment of risk areas would have the the most impact, since it will identify the critical areas that you have to be concentrating in your department, such as the ICU, the ER, or any critical areas. The other selections A, C, and D are appropriate, but it would not have much impact in reducing risk. So
And this is a good example of really reading the question that in designing a risk management program. So as you'll see these questions, and we've talked about it, Nora's given us great examples, and all of our presenters, is that they really look at in order of how to do things. So if you're designing a risk management program, you're going to have to look at your high risk areas first. And we've talked about that in other areas as well, is look at where your opportunities are, look at what do a SWOT, you need to focus on. And then as you do that, all those others might fall into place if you, especially education, which was a good answer, but that's sort of a subgroup in designing a risk management program. So thank you.
Okay, gang, question 4. In conducting a risk assessment, what would be the first action to take? Okay, we got a little mixed bag of answers here. All 4 answers start with the word identify.
And the answer is, next slide. Exactly.
Identify the steps in the process of concern. Okay. Makes sense.
So I think if you've done that, you maybe have done that in a risk cause analysis, or is that you really first you look at what are the steps, and then what failed, and then cause, and then action. So this actually sort of describes it in that order. So thank you.
Okay, so this is a case scenario actually question. So your medical staff on the general medicine unit has been complaining about the delays in the administration of medications. You study the processing times on other units and indeed find that the general medical unit times are considerably longer. What will be your first step to take? A, implement best practices from other units. B, have the manager from the highest performing unit assist the general medical unit in its improvement efforts. C, establish benchmark for processing times across the organization. Or D, organize a process improvement team on the general medical unit. So like this question is, if you are the leader in that department, what would you do first? Yeah, I can see some different answers there. And the answers, let's move to the next slide. D, so it's organize a process improvement team on at the general medical unit. So a team should be first organized to determine what's the specific system issues instead of implementing A, B, and C. So it's the best approach. It's a collaborative approach in process improvement initiatives.
Question 6, what tool is most appropriate in identifying priorities for action? Okay, it looks like majority answer is B, Bravo, cause effect diagram.
Next slide. Answer is
C.
This question's a good reminder just to know what each of those are. You don't have to be an expert in them, but you got to be able to know what they are and what their purpose is.
Pareto chart. Look it up as a definition. That's a good one. And if anyone wants to throw it in the chat, that's a good learning assessment. We'll go to the next question.
What approach best ensures loyalty? Return visits by patients to your organization. A, patient satisfaction surveys. B, patient engagement. C, an effective complaint resolution process. Or D, customer service training. Looks like we have one answer here. We'll go to the next slide for the answer, please. Yes, it's patient engagement.
I think we all know that from all our, whatever exposure or years we've had working in patient-facing areas. Thank you. Next question.
Question 8. What action should you take to ensure that all critical activities associated with care of a patient are being carried out in the right sequence in your organization?
Okay, B's.
Couple D's, couple B's.
D's. And the answer is? And pathways really give you the right order. Evidence-based practice management program means that you've used research that's been done in that particular clinical area and looked at it as it relates to getting the best outcomes. But pathways gives you the order of how to proceed through delivering it within that clinical model. So, but good, good to look at both of those. And I'm going to put in a little bit more about the Pareto chart, why it would be the right answer to look at it as the most frequent problems. So, oh, somebody else is doing a great job. And we'll research it as well. So
if for this question, if I may, don't be confused between the difference of clinical practice guidelines and clinical pathways. Sometimes they put the question in a confusing manner. So the clinical practice guidelines is usually provide you a general approach in treating patients, like proper test, proper procedure, what is the proper procedure you have to order for the patient. So
we'll transition over to our Quizlet. Thank you. As we do that, get set up.
Thanks, Sherry. I'm going to share my screen really quickly. First, we'll go into the healthcare technology and IT information management. And I do apologize if you hear some dogs whining in the background. So we'll just keep this brief with 3 questions for multiple choice and true and false. So can everybody see the screen? Great. Thanks, Rick. I saw
We can. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Sherry. So first question, is legislation that promotes the adoption and meaningful use of health information technology. It's part of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009 and usually referred to as the High-Tech Act. Is it A, information exchange, B, health informatics, excuse me, C, health information technology for Economic and Clinical Health Act, or D, mHealth or eHealth application?
Sorry, I'm on mute. So we're getting a lot of Charlies
Charlie's
so
okay.
far.
Great, thank you. So moving
So
to the
far,
next.
Charlie all the way so far.
Splendid. Thanks, Nora. Okay, so I selected the Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinical Health Act. Second question. Use of certified electronic health record technology to improve the quality, safety, and efficiency in care, and to reduce health disparities. Eligible providers who do so receive incentive payments from the federal government. Is it A, health informatics, B, cloud computing, C, meaningful use, D, dataware?
As you're giving your answers, if you have a couple of seconds to just write down why you're answering that. Okay, we're getting Charlie's.
Charlie's meaningful use. That's good. All right, next question. A statistical analysis that identifies values for a measure by defined subsets of a population to allow accurate comparisons for each specified group. Is it A, grid computing, B, specification, C, adjustment, or D, confidentiality?
So far, more Charlies.
Okay. Looks like it's very C focused today, no multiple choice. There's a theme going on. Great. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to true, false. And first one is a system designed to support the decision-making process of an individual or organization through the use of data retrieval, modeling, and reporting is called a decision support system. I'm so sorry, excuse me. Is it true or false?
Tangos, tango, tango.
Tango. It's one of my favorite dances. Okay, moving on. Thanks, everyone. A process of electronically entering instructions or orders regarding the diagnosis and treatment of patients. That is computerized provider order entry. True or false, everyone?
Tango, tango,
Nice.
tango. Yes.
Lots of tangos. And consistency too. And last question, and thank you, Michael. I see your response in the chat, so we can go back to that to discuss it in a little bit. A computer network topology in which the workload is spread out across a network of computers that can be located in different organizational units. Is that health level 7, true or false?
Okay, getting a Frank. Couple more Franks.
Alrighty. So
Yeah,
see if
got Frank.
Great. Okay, let's check the responses.
Oh, okay.
83. Mhm. So numbers in the multiple choice, all of them are, 1 and 2 are correct. 3, it looks like it's specification rather than adjustment. But all the true false questions are correct. Would anyone like to do a little brain walk for number 3 or discuss that more, or shall we move on? Oh, yes, scroll down. Yes, Alex. Okay, scroll down too much.
Question 3 is what we're looking at.
Yes.
If
So it's supposed to be, what is a health level 7?
well, that's a good question. Health level 7.
So what is a health level 7?
Oh, last question.
So HL7 is like an international standard to transfer data, exchange data between entities. So it's not across, different units within, it's to exchange with other entities, like claims data and, stuff like that. But I'm actually kind of thinking, how do we get more clarity for that third one, the one that we struggled with, it looks like, if you scroll it up a little. There you go. So this is a hard one, I guess, because I don't even think in IT a specification is the way that answer was written. So I would probably just do the deduction of the answers. We know it's not confidentiality. I don't know, Rick, as the professor in the group, how would you recommend that the team answer this, or reduce their
Well, first of all,
opportunity for success, I guess.
I just want to repeat what I've been saying for the last 5 weeks, which is you're not going to be an expert on every single thing on this test. You're not going to get 100 on it. So there's going to be some things you're just going to take a wild guess at. And what you want to do is, if you're taking a wild guess, is cut your odds from 1 in 4 to 1 in 3, 1 in 2, whatever you can. So statistical analysis, as soon as you see the word statistical analysis, probably 50% of you will say, oh, yeah, next question, and not bother with it. Don't do that. But you can look at, okay, so grid computing is not a statistical analysis, probably, so we can eliminate that. Confidentiality, again, not a statistical analysis. You're going to use it for your data. So right now you got it down to 2, and that's like flipping a coin, right? So if you don't know the 2, you're good. You're better than you were if you just did it randomly by getting rid of the 2 easy ones. I have absolutely no idea, because I am not a quality person. It was one of the areas of the test, along with finance, that I had to really study for. So I don't know that I would have gotten it any further, and I probably would have just basically flipped a coin at that point.
So this is a challenge to all our participants that have flashcards. Somewhere the answer is in all the flashcard sections in there. It's knowledge area 5 in yellow. So homework assignment is to find that question and answer if it's in the flashcards, and email me, and I will include that in the follow-up FAQs and updates in the follow-up email. So homework assignment.
And Angela, the number 3 questions on the true or false, if you probably look into that, do you think that's it's referred to the internet instead of HL7? I'm just, internet, intranet, HL7, those kind of
Intranet.
things. Yeah, internet, yeah.
Intranet, not internet, since it's.
Yeah, so that's internet, right?
Organizational units. Mhm.
Yeah.
All right,
I-
let's see what Quizlet has for us in quality and performance.
Well, and Rick, you had said you weren't in quality, but this was the IT one. So that's where I should have known the second one or that. But when I think of a specification, it's kind of like, yeah, what are the things you need to have in the system, to build it? So the way this is described to me is not how I would have thought of it either. But it would be, I'm just eliminating the obvious answers basically, or the obvious wrong answers to get to that. So.
I think I read specification as criteria. So to have a defined population, you need a criteria and sort of like requirements. If you just interplay the words, so you need a requirement to define a population, or specification means requirement or criteria. So that's why I chose specification.
Yeah, and that's I did the exact same thing. I said, well, I didn't think of specification as a statistical analysis, but I looked at the other words and said that's the one that makes the most sense. So it is kind of an interesting way to word it, I guess.
Thanks, everyone. Love the explanations, and it's very helpful. So we'll be moving on to the next segment. So yes, multiple choice for quality and performance. First one, it is a little bit longer, so please bear with me. The systematic assessment of a process to identify the location, cause, and consequences of potential failure for the purpose of eliminating or reducing the chance of failure. It is also called failure mode, effects and criticality analysis, and healthcare failure mode and effects analysis. Moment to digest. And so the responses are A, Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, B, failure mode and effects analysis, C, Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award, or D, quality assurance.
B, bravo.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm starting to see B as well, given the questions. All right, next is an improvement model that supports repeated incremental improvements in a practice to optimize performance. A, evidence-based measures. B, rapid cycle improvement. C, root cause analysis. Or D, utilization review.
Looks like we're getting more bravos.
Okay, rapid cycle improvement. Noted. Thank you. Last question for multiple choice. A performance improvement approach aims at eliminating waste, also called lean manufacturing or lean thinking. Is it A, lean, B, core measure project, C, rapid cycle improvement, or D, utilization review?
Getting some alphas.
That's great. And so last section, thank you everyone. True, false. Review of professional performance by professionals with similar training and experience is called peer review. True or false?
Tango.
Thank you. Resounding tango. Sorry. 2, an entity or business with systems in place that are exceptionally consistent in accomplishing goals and avoiding potentially catastrophic errors is called the 8 types of waste eliminated during lean projects. True or false?
Getting some Franks coming in.
Excellent. And lastly, evaluation of patients' medical and psychosocial needs for the purpose of determining the type of care you will need after discharge from a healthcare facility is quality assurance. True or false?
Frank?
Okay.
Frank doing the foxtrot.
Oh, should it be, is it Foxtrot? Sorry.
Let's check our answers. 100% all. You did great.
Yay.
Great job.
Yay.
All right.
Sorry, I
Excellent.
got the
No,
acronym.
that's perfect. Frank doing
wrong
the
there.
foxtrot. You'll remember that. Great. Well, we'll go to a couple things we want to present. I think one of the most important things for us to hear about is for those of you that maybe have taken the exam before and you wanted to study with us or learn from us, what will you do differently if you feel comfortable putting it in the chat or even coming off mute? And just what will you do differently this time based on what you learned in this 5-session BOG review exam?
Nora, I'd also like to know for future IT, if the questions that you're seeing now were aligned to with what you were seeing on the actual test, or if there were a couple that really stumped them because they hadn't been given the opportunity to study or get exposure to them.
So Anne, thank you. Please, if you take yourself off mute and just say what you'd do differently, we truly appreciate it. And thank you, Angela, too, if there's questions. Questions about the questions. Thanks, Anne.
Yeah, thank you. And I will tell you, going through this class the second time around has been extremely helpful after taking the test. I focused a lot on Quizlet and not so much on the flashcards and the books. And I think that was a little detrimental when I got into the test and saw that a lot of the questions really required knowledge of the definitions. So I think if there's anything that anybody learns from this course, and also what the test structure is really knowing your definitions, because that's going to be critical with your decision making and eliminating even to the top 2. I'm a medical speech pathologist. I'm now in hospital administration, and the questions around inpatient rehab and ancillary services, and even a speech therapy question, I was even stumped on those. and that's my area of expertise. So it's just really critical for you to go in with an open mind, stay relaxed during the test, and really just focus on those key words, not only in the question, but also in the answers that are provided. I spent over 4 hours in the test. I really made sure that I took my time and took breaks. And I was glad that I did it because I learned the areas that really I need to focus on for studying the next go around. I've talked to a lot of colleagues and friends who have taken the test. A lot of people don't pass the first time, and sometimes it takes 2 or 3 times. And so don't just use this study session as your preparation.
Right.
It's going to take months and months and months for you to really just digest the information. So good luck, everybody. Thank you, for allowing me the opportunity to share some of my lessons learned.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Anne. And Julie, you've got a moment to share what you might do differently. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Can you all hear me okay?
Sure can.
Yeah, so I focused on the books. I ordered the books. I didn't order the flashcards. I also didn't take any preparation course. And I feel like I took the test so I could see where my weaknesses were. Not so much, I had no idea where I was going to fall for actually performance. So it was helpful really to see where in the test I needed to focus my study more. So I'm going to use that as a way to focus my study. I also purchased the flashcards because I did not use those last. And I feel like I rushed through the test, which is something I tend to do, and I will not do that next time. I will take as much time as I need, and I'm going to use the methods. I can't remember what we labeled it, but the brain methods. When I read the question, yes, because I didn't do that. Right, the brain walk, thank you. I didn't do that. And it's been super useful for me, even as I study now. So yeah, if you can, I highly recommend taking the test. And maybe this is not good advice, but I'll just say it anyways. Taking the test anyways, because it does tell you where your weaknesses are. And if you can do that, I think it would be helpful to you to understand some of the areas you have room to study in. But good luck again to everyone. It's not an easy test.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate it. All right, Nora, let's take us through some of our closing presentations or comments. Thank you so much, Julie, and that's really helpful.
Thank you.
Do you want to get back to the slide presentation, Nora?
Sachin, can you bring it up, please? And to Julie's point, there is a comment I have in closing comments that ACHE allows you to take the test for free if you submit your application between a certain time frame in the spring. And our advice, take it. Even if you're not ready, take it. So thank you, Julie, okay, so closing comments. Let's just touch on a few key things that we'd like you to take away. Here are some practical tips that we have garnered from ourselves, previous attendees, and again, thank you for the two of you that just talked about it today. Be sure to read and reread each question carefully, and I will add, read it backwards. Yeah, there it is. Read it backwards, and you're going to catch keywords that you may have missed the first time around. Read all the responses before selecting an answer. And this is when you apply, channel your inner Rick when you start thinking about, read the options as true, false, start eliminating, and then answer the question. Again, you're going to have a gut feel on some of them. But again, you need to be sure that you've understood that question. And mark only one answer. Sometimes people have answered multiple times and it invalidates that question. There is no penalty for guessing, so take a shot. There have been some questions on these sample questions where like, throw a dart. But at least you can eliminate most of the questions, hopefully. There is a way to mark on your test. So skip difficult questions, you can mark them, can come back to them. Remember, pick only one answer for the questions. And then we all know this, we've all taken tests our entire lives. Do not go back and change answers once you put it down. Just go on to the next. Next slide. Okay, again, the most inclusive answer is usually the correct one. Be very, very careful when you're looking at, so specific answers are usually correct. When there's something such as is not, all but, if there's absolute words, always, never, only, be sure and concentrate on those. Again, remember the exam is national. It's not California specific. We go down that rabbit hole in California all the time, but it's national in scope. So you're looking at this from a general management perspective. The response will apply equally to all organizations, whether it's home health, ancillaries, hospitals, insurance companies. It'll apply in general. Okay, and one of the most important is like, take a minute or two, regroup, refresh, refocus, and breathe. Okay, next. Okay, so that score is cumulative. So you're going to find that you're stronger in some than others. And previous exam results would show you what your scores were in different departments. I don't think it does that anymore. But you don't have to get 100% on all, you know, or even passing in all of them. It's cumulative to pass the test. Remember to take the self-assessment tool that's available on the ACHE site. I put the link here, and it describes right here what it is. And that may be able to help you focus on what to specifically concentrate on, either as you enter into the study or once you've studied and want to focus again. But we recommend taking it at the top. Next. Okay. breathe. This is Sherry's most famous and excellent recommendations on the heart-focused breathing. So she has us go through that before each session, and it works every time. Next slide. Okay, from our perspective, one of the things that's very useful is to start, consider starting and joining a study group. You can check not only Cal, other chapters may host those. We're actually not hosting a study group yet, simply because of resource allocation, but nothing says that you guys can't start that. One of the things that I want to do is send out the registration list with everyone's emails. You can opt out. Please let me know if you prefer not to have your contact information out there, but you guys are going to be your best source of a study group. But again, contact us anytime if you have specific questions. We'll try to find answers for you. Take advantage of local chapter and national virtual programming for their face-to-face and qualified education hours. For example, next slide. This is an event that Seoul had last spring, and your chapter and ACHE are constantly sending out opportunities for participating in either face-to-face or continuing education. So take advantage of those as well. Next slide. Okay, so there's two options available through ACHE. One is if you look on the right-hand side, the online tutorial. This is a self-study format. It provides information for up to a year after you purchase it. There is a member rate. You get 10 qualified education credits for that, which is actually a bargain when you think about how much you have to pay for some continuing education or qualified education credits. And then ACHE does offer periodically virtual BOG exam review courses, and they usually announce that in the emails that go out. Plus, you can go out on the Learning Center in the ACHE website and see if they've got any coming up. They don't have any coming up in the near future. I checked last night, but when they do offer it, it's 9 virtual sessions over the 10 knowledge areas. It's like once a week, like ours. You earn 14 face-to-face credits, which again, it's a bargain at that price. I know it sounds kind of pricey, but it's a bargain. And it's presented by experts in the field. So keep your eye out for the next time the review course comes out. See, how long are the credits good for? They expire after 3 years. So whatever credits you get are good for 3 years, and then they drop off and you have to start over again. Next slide. Okay, this is it. If you complete your application between March and the end of June, and include the application fee and the supporting documents, if your application is approved, ACHE will waive that exam fee. Do it, take the exam. Best case scenario, you pass. Worst case scenarios, you don't, but you've got some valuable information moving forward. And if you do get the waiver, you need to use it within 6 months. Next. Okay, and finally, we really, really do care about your progress. So please keep us posted. All of us that are participating in this and your local chapters are vested in your success. Once you've taken the exam, we welcome you back. Whether you passed or not, we want to hear about it. Just exactly what you provided today was absolutely valuable. And we're going to ask you for, specific, not so much word for word for the questions, but if you remember anything in general. And what we also like to hear is, even though these questions rolled, did you find the topics similar to what we presented? And last but not least, good luck. We are really vested in your success on this. This is why we do this. on Saturday mornings and throughout the year. We're always prepping this. So thank you.
And if folks if you want to come off camera, we can take a look at your costumes, because we were going to vote for swag. I know we're just about done, but if anybody wants to be in the costume. Okay.
Oh, I like these. Oh, look at the hats. Oh my gosh.
All right, we've got,
Okay, faculty don't count. So this is the
no,
participants.
we don't count. Yep, okay. All right, nod to Sanjit, Julie, and Ann T. And you're all going to get swag, so thank you. I appreciate you being part of it. We'll make sure you get your address. We'll get your addresses. If you guys don't mind putting it in the chat, Sanjit, Ann, and Julie, then we'll send you your Cal swag. We appreciate it. Thanks for participating, and thanks all.
And, consider us, use fellows from your local chapter as a reference, and then you can always reach out to us as well. I mean, this is what we do. And we take our responsibilities as fellows seriously. So, and again, if you have any questions, let us know. Thank you.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Thank you. Great job, all. Great job.